Hello everyone, welcome to my new course. So this course is for very ultimate beginners in Houdini who just install the software and you're probably trying to get started, but maybe you don't have much idea about like how Houdini works, and maybe you could have gone through some tutorials online and found it very hard to follow. So the goal of this tutorial is to take you from an absolute beginner to kind of a advanced beginner. So one thing you should know is it's not possible to learn Houdini in a month or in 2 months or maybe in like 3 to 4 months also. It takes some time. So the way I learned Houdini, I came from a cinema 4D background, and then I started playing with Houdini and basically starting with this shelf tools, which we will learn more about in the coming sessions. And I didn't understand anything actually at the beginning. For a month or for even like 6 months, I struggled a lot to understand what is happening, how to how to improve my Houdini skills. And basically, it was like very pathetic that for me at that time that I was not able to learn a software because I took it took very short time for me to learn Cinema 4D and get started to render an output. But Houdini is not Cinema 4D. Houdini is Houdini. It's very different from any other 3D softwares out there. And that is one thing that makes Houdini like incredibly powerful. So think of Houdini not like a software but like an operating system on which you will build tools, procedural tools. So this flexibility that Houdini provides makes it one of the best software out there to do procedural stuff. Not only procedural stuff, like currently, animating effects, obviously, rigging, modeling, anything to do with it. And I think it is one of the best decisions I ever made um as a growing 3D artist. And after learning Houdini, I got opportunity to work with MPC, the mill, and double negative. I have also worked with Flam, which is a VR company out here. So Houdini is like very powerful, but it is definitely very hard to get started and start being able to do things by yourself. So that is where I am here to help you with. Before starting to do anything, we need to learn the ultimate basics, that is the UI, and how to navigate around the viewport. And we'll also understand the context. There is something called context in Houdini. We'll understand what is it. So this is how an empty scene, like when you open Houdini, will look like. And this right here is the 3D view, scene view, and this is where all the objects that you have in the scene is going to be visible, and you can tumble around this scene view by pressing alt and then using your left mouse button, and you can rotate it like this. In Houdini, this 0 to 1 length is 1 meter. So Houdini works on meter scale. So that makes it different from other 3D softwares like Blender, I think Maya too. They work on a different scale. So basically, when we import stuff from Blender and Maya, we scale it by 100 or 0.01, something like that. So we will ignore unwanted things, and we will learn only the core basics that we need to get started. So this is the scene view, and this right here is the network view. Scene view, network view, parameters. These are the very basic three things you need to know to get started with Houdini. And there are some other things also. For example, this is a timeline. I think it should be obvious for you. And this is the shelf tool right here. And in the network view, we can place objects, geometry, everything in the form of nodes. I'm going to put down a sphere, and you can already start seeing the sphere in the scene view. If you want to show the wireframe or any other view, the options are here. Like for example, wireframe bounding box, shaded bounding box, flat wire shaded. So these are all the different ways to view the 3D objects. And this is the smooth wire shaded. And right here in middle, you have some very important tools. Some are like used to adjust the lighting condition of the viewport. Like this is like very flat, and now this is like with good lighting, and you can enable shadows. And here we have the display points, which if you click will show all the points in the geometry. So here, this is all you need to know right now. Maybe you can also use this one to see the point numbers. So every point will have a number. We will see this later, but it's good to know this. So you can press Alt and use your mouse to rotate around an object, and you can middle click and press Alt and middle click, and this is like tumble, I think. This is rotate. By using Alt and left click we can rotate, Alt and middle click we can tumble. And so to zoom in and zoom out, you are going to use your middle mouse button with Alt. So this is the basic way to navigate around the scene view in Houdini. Okay. So now one more thing we'll learn, like for example, you want to like target this object or to work on this object, you need to frame this object. So just click on the object and press space G, and that will bring your viewport, your bring your object to the center of your scene view. It may be anywhere. You just select the object and space G, and now this object is like well zoomed for you to start working with it. Okay. So this is the ultimate basics of our UI in Houdini. There are definitely other things, but I am thinking that this is all you need to know to get started and not get confused and overwhelmed with Houdini. So this is the network view like we spoke before. And here you're going to put down the nodes and everything. And all the parameters of that selected node comes over here in the parameter view. And when this blue tick or this blue display is turned on any object, that is going to be visible in the scene view. I'm going to go back and now we are going to learn one more important thing. So please try to understand this. This is like very important in Houdini. But I want to teach only the very basics of this. It is called context. In Houdini, there are like multiple contexts: object level, SOP level, DOP level, COP level. There is like a lot. But I want to keep it very simple. So you're going to learn only two contexts in this volume. Okay. So this is like the very basic of contest, and I think this is like where you should start from. And once you get used to Houdini, you are going to learn all the context. So now I don't have any objects here, and you see here I am in object context. So object level or object context is like where we put down um, like we will have geometries, lights, cameras all under this context. And then there is sub context. So for example, just put down a simple geometry node. It is an empty geometry node. And once you come here, it is called sub context. So object level and sub level, we can call it level or context. So these are the only two contexts I think that you should know to get started with Houdini and get going. But just for you to know, there are like multiple contexts. For example, there is a DOP network. This is a DOP level or DOP context. Here we'll be doing the simulations like fire, smoke, or anything, like any kind of simulation will happen inside a DOP network. But you don't need to get confused, and so we will keep it simple. We are not going to learn anything about DOP context. I think mostly if we touch a bit about DOP contest at the end of this volume, let's see. But and also there is like ROP contest. So ROP. Then there is LOP contest. But don't forget about all this. This is just for your information. So ROP context is like render operators, and this is the stage level, or uh, mostly we do the Solaris stuff over here. It's just forget this. We'll delete all this and we'll get back to our basics. This is the object level, and if you go in here, we have the SOP level. And in object level, we can have camera, for example. See, we got a camera here. We can put down a light. See, now we have a light here, but we can't have a camera in the SOP level. So in SOP level, we can have geometries. I can put down a sphere node here, and we have a sphere. But we can't have a sphere here. If you put down a sphere in the object level, it is going to create a SOP context first, and then we are going to have a sphere. So that is the difference between an object level and the SOP level. So we'll concentrate on only these two levels. I'm going to explain this once again to you. Right now we are in the object level. So the default level that we get when we open a new network or the new Houdini is the object level. Here we can have things like camera, and you can click here and view from this camera, and you can lock the camera and move it where you want. Okay, I'm just going to keep it like this. Also, you're going to use the same controls like pressing Alt and left click and middle click to pan and rotate using the left click. It's all the same. Okay, but here we are moving our camera because we have locked the camera. We have a camera in the object level. Now we need to create a sphere, a geometry, or anything. You can directly put the sphere here, but it will create a geometry node. And if you go inside, this is a SOP level. So SOP level, you can do multiple things. All the geometry related stuff you're going to do here. Like for example, I can put a torus and I can visualize the torus by clicking here and you see the torus. And one more thing is you can template the geometry. So if you press this pink color view here, so it's templated. You can also press Control and template. Now you see the full geometry. You don't see the wireframe alone. So press once without pressing the Alt button, sorry, Control button, and you see the wireframe geometry. So this is used to keep some object as a template. And you can press Control and press here. You see the entire object. Okay. So this is the very ultimate basics that I think you should know. Okay, so now we have learned the very basics of an object level and a SOP level. And let's just rename this SOP level or geometry. We'll just call it a geometry node. Actually, it is a geometry node. And once you come in here, this is the SOP level. Okay, I'm just going to rename this geometry node into something. Um, we'll just call it coloring because we are going to color the geometry. Okay, now let's delete this torus and we are going to work with the sphere. So how are we going to modify anything inside a SOP level? We are going to put down nodes one by one to do some work. So initially it's going to be intimidating to think that to do any operation you need to put down a new node and then again a new node and again a new node. But this makes Houdini like very powerful because it is going to give you a non-destructive workflow. Let me show you for an example. Now you have an object that the client gave you and your let's consider the sphere is what the client gave you. I'm going to color it into like for example red color. So I'm going to uncheck this so that I don't accidentally move the camera hereafter. So we have colored the object red. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a node called mountain. So this turns the sphere, it gives slight undulations and kind of makes it like let's say a rock. Actually you can come over here and change the simplex to I think Warley Cellular to make it look more like a rock. And now your client comes and says that we are going to change the geometry that we gave you and you need to do the same exact thing with the new geometry. Now imagine you're working in a destructive environment like Maya or Blender or Cinema 4D. You have to do this all again. But here the number of operations we are doing is like very little, like color and mountain. Now imagine you did like hundreds of operations here, like you have like so many things done to this geometry and you need to do all things again. It's very much time consuming and very repetitive and it's not fun. Now let's say your client gives you the new geometry and that is going to be, let's say for example, a torus. You just connect the torus to the color and get rid of the spear, and everything else happens automatically. Now you have applied the color and also you have applied this mountain. So this makes Houdini like very very powerful because it has this non-destructive workflow that helps us save time, which you will find it intimidating at beginning, definitely. But once you get used to it, I bet you're not going to go back to any other software to do anything actually. So you feel the raw power here in Houdini. It actually doesn't make sense to even uh, to use any other software once you learn Houdini. The learning process, it takes time. Yeah, definitely it takes some time. But the overall process that I followed is I just kept doing Houdini every day, like 3 4 hours of something like random, watching tutorials, trying to do something, watching courses, and at some point it just clicks. At one day you go wake up thinking, okay, I know what Houdini is about. I know how to use Houdini, and believe me, it doesn't take as long. Also, there is no ending to learning in Houdini. You cannot learn Houdini completely, but you just need to get to a place where you understand the basics, and then you are good to go. Like, you should understand the basic concept of Houdini, how it is working, and how you can do something that is needed. So that clicks. Like, for example, it may take 6 months or it may take a year, but at some point you wake up and you find out that, okay, I know, like, this is Houdini. I know exactly how it is working. And after that, it's just learning new concepts through your life. So, this is the ultimate fundamental basics that I want you guys to know. So, from the next chapter onwards, we will start doing something interesting every chapter, and we will learn Houdini my way. Thank you.